Well, hello, welcome to today's show. Now this is going into the home and land play list, I think. And today I'm going to give you a quick primer, not guaranteed to be 100% accurate, but of everything that's available and all that sort of jazz. But we'll do one on vinyl plank flooring, or luxury vinyl plank flooring. But before we do that, I do need to point out, as always, I'm not currently a licensed general contractor, commercial contractor, residential contractor, limited residential contractor, and I don't install things like this without a license for under $25,000, any kind of exclusions thereof. I'm a realtor. Real estate guy. Okay, so this just represents my opinion, and before we jump into it, let's hear a word from my sponsor. If you have real property to sell in the greater Murfreesboro, Rutherford County area, then call Dale to sell at Benchmark Realty, 615-409-SOLD. That's 7653 or 615-809-2323. Okay, now that the unpleasantries are over, the disclaimer and the commercial, the advert, let's talk about plank flooring. Now, everybody knows about real hardwood, which is great. It's kind of adds a little structural element to it. It's hard, it's uniform throughout. You can sand it down, finish in place, really good stuff. Downside with that is because it's a real wood product, a whole wood product, subject to cupping and that sort of thing, and swelling. You can't put it in certain places like in converted garages, or it's not recommended, should I say, in converted garages, basements, that sort of thing, places where they might have great humidity swings. And if you ever have a leaky dishwasher or something like that, you might find out that it kind of messes up the joints a little bit. But it can be sanded down and refinished. Laminate, not a big fan of laminate, quite honest. I'd rather have either real wood or something else, because laminate is, well, we had the whole thing with the high urformaldehyde type stuff, where that Chinese stuff was coming in, and it was because they used, I think, a really poor quality backer, and they needed like particle board, so they needed extra glue to hold it together, which is where the extra urethane came from, formaldehyde, whatever the glue that was. And we see hemp. Some people say, oh, let's look at this wonderful stuff we can do with hemp. The only problem is it uses something similar or akin to super glue, which is cyanoacrylate. This is not super glue, but it is it does have a cyanide in the glue, and the reason for it is hemp is greasy. So for a substrate or backer, it's tough, and of course it's a stringy thing, so for a surface that's something different. But anyway, you can do tile. Tile's great. I've had trouble with tile in the past if it wasn't bedded properly in the grout that's underneath it, and what happens, you drop something heavy on it, can of Old Glory greens or something like that, knock something out, boom, hits it, maybe breaks a tile. So it's always good, if you're having tile work done, to make sure they give you an extra 10 or so tiles, you know, for spares in case you have to have a repair done. And then there's the grout you got to maintain. So what else is next? Well, then we get into probably either stone of some sort or vinyl. Now this vinyl is plank, and it goes in sort of like the laminate does, laminate wood. It has groove, you know, tongue and grooves, you know, top and bottom. And if it's on the top on the two sides, it'll be on the bottom on the other two. It's interesting decoration wise. They actually bevel in this particular style, and some others they actually bevel that outside edge and kind of have it kind of colored a little brownish, so that when you butt them all together, you can see the edges of the board. You know, so in case you couldn't figure out that it's a plank type flooring, it accentuates those joints, and it actually gives you, I think, more than that, a functional look, because the backer is white. This particular brand is kind of whitish color, yellowish white, and what it does is between that brown and that white, it does show the gap if you don't have them put in there tightly. This has a little bit, this particular piece has a little bit of texture. It has a little bit of thickness to it, and of course this particular one has a little bit of a cushion in the back. Now I use this, I bought this at Lowe's at the big box store, and prices for this stuff seems to run about $2 to $3, actually, maybe if you want to be more accurate, probably about $2.50, $2.75 to $3.75 type of pricing. Depends on what brand you buy, and there's a lot of different brands. Some of it's thinner than others. This particular piece of the store brand is a little bit thicker than some of the cheapest. They had some down to $1.88 a square foot, and that kind of is pushing the roll vinyl prices. Now a lot of people will make fun of roll vinyl, and because it's about as cheap as you can get, more cost effective as you can get, but it's not necessarily the product, it's the installation that affects your overall job price, if you want to think about it, because the calendar stuff, the roll stuff, usually comes in 6 and 12 foot wide, and in my case it was a 8 foot wide bathroom, and it's about 5.5, 6 foot deep with a toilet sitting in it, so it really wasn't that big of an area. I didn't want to buy a big roll piece, even though there's some 6 available, because quite frankly the 6 foot wide available calendar stuff at Lowe's, there was only 3 types, and all 3 was ugly. I mean really ugly, but it was like 80 cents a foot, so it's like I'll go a little bit more, even though this is, in this particular application where I put this, was the upstairs bathroom, the kids' bathrooms, and quite frankly I don't have any kids left in the house, so I just wanted to fix a problem. And what was the problem? Well, just briefly, the calendar stuff is easy. First of all, a lot of it's cheap, even though some of it may get in the same price per square foot depending on the vinyl design and type and warranty and wear layers and that kind of stuff that the roll has. But you basically find your center, measure it, measure your length, lay it out, cut it, trim it, put it down, and usually it's like a staple or tack around the perimeter, unless you're at a door under a door jamb type thing where you may glue it down. Well, this was in the bathroom, and they had done that. And I don't know if you know about the luan or the underlayment, but there'll be a lot of times you'll have a recommendation to put a little bit of a layer of a thin plywood. It's almost like a single sheet of plywood or a single ply of plywood type of material. Some kind of an underlayment. It does 2 things. It gives it a little bit of structure, but it also allows it to come up a little bit, bring up your level, your floor levels a little bit. If you have carpeting, something on the other side, it serves a couple different purposes. So in that bathroom, they had the roll stuff, and it rolled right up to the bathtub. The luan went up to the bathtub, had maybe a little expansion gap, or perhaps it was cut a little short, and they stapled it down around the perimeter. Well, at the tub, either they missed the luan with those 1/4-inch staples and a 1/4-inch piece of luan, either they missed it or whatever, but the center pulled away from the tub, so it made a gap where it exposed the wood below it, and a little bit of splashing. It would get up under there and maybe threaten to do some water damage. It didn't, because it's only a little bit of splashing. And it got worse with age, and I haven't used that bathroom in 7 years, except for the lavatory and the water closet on occasion. So the bath just wasn't used. It just wasn't a high priority. It's one of those things that nags at you to fix at some point in your life. So we did that, and the very cheapest stuff in the plank flooring was an option. This stuff is fully waterproof, it says. It fits nice and tight together. It's easy to work with. And that's also something. It's also easier, I think, to work with than the laminate wood flooring. It's also a little bit of bouncy, and I think it's probably a good deal for bang for the buck. It is a little bit of a luxury in the sense that installation will take a little while. There's a little bit more level of installation than kind of rough laying it out, cutting, trimming, tacking it down, dragging up and going. Because you have to fit it, you have to figure your pattern, your planks, and I'll put up a picture of the pattern I ended up with as I try to figure out how to do this, and also to minimize waste. Now, what kind of tools do we need to work with it? Well, nothing really difficult or expensive. I had to buy one of these little kits, and it has lovely little pictures on the side. Let me do my Vanna White. Okay, and it has a plastic piece that we use to go along the long side that you bump over with a hammer, and it has a metal piece that you use to kind of pull it from the end. And it also has, I don't know how many, 30 pieces of the little spacers. Now, one thing I noticed, I looked online on YouTube just to see what the competition was, if there, for general flooring information. Some put out by professionals, some people put out by hobbyists, kind of stuff like this. And the thing is, you need a 1/4 inch according to the manufacturer if you're going to do a floating floor. And that's where you don't tie it down, it kind of adjusts, The thing with a floating floor is if you don't use a gap of a 1/4, then probably when you put your trim, your shoe mold, your shoe trim, or your 1/4 round, that you'll probably hit a piece of, and it's not going to float anyway because you're going to have it tacked down. The instructions in this material did say that you could glue it down if you wanted to. Like, I guess if you had a basement floor, something like that, a slab floor, you might glue it down in that application. So, it being what it is, oh, I forgot about this peel and stick tile or whatever. They also make not a peel and stick tile of this, but they also make this stuff in a stone look, a tile look type thing, and they're a little bit bigger. They're like maybe 18 by 12 or something like that. You will end up, I think, if you have an irregular shape, probably end up with more waste off that. So your gross buy of your material may be higher because this edge has been cut. So I would not butt 2 pieces of it together because I can't keep that joint together. And you would have that situation when you laid your pattern out. You may end up with a lot of wastage because you do need, the only place you need a straight cut like that is going to be under a wall, right? Or up against a cabinet, something like that. So you want your little groove. So with a different shape, a more square, bigger piece, I would end up, I think, probably with a little bit more wastage, it'd be a little bit more expensive. But they do make it, and I did consider some because I like the colors a little bit better of some stuff they had in stock. So it's just something that's available. So what was I talking about? The tools, okay? So they just snap together. I mean, you can figure that out. There's kind of a tongue groove. You put them in there. You connect the ends. You kind of lay them in there and put it in there. You see my little pattern. I kind of adjusted it, and it started out to do that, to not have a lot of cut pieces with waste on the end because I wanted the edges to lock together. So I had a full piece and a part of a piece, and then I rotated them through and gave it kind of that look to it. We need this kit, and I think it's about 20 bucks or so. A blunting hammer, whatever you want to call it, mallet. I've always called these mallet, rubber mallet. Although it's not rubber, it's steel head with a rubber and a hard plastic piece on it. A square of some sort. Of course, if you have a lot of this stuff around the house, it cuts down on your installation. And probably some kind of a saw or Dremel tool even for some of the cuts. Because quite honestly, this being a bathroom, I had to cut around a toilet flange, and I used my little Dremel. This particular one has basically a little router kit to it. So you take off the little nose guard, put on this, looks like a router where you can adjust the depth, and you use a type of circular bit, and you cut drywall with it. You can cut irregular shapes. I used it to cut around the toilet flange, getting a little tongue-tied, put around a toilet flange. And the way I did that is when I got up to it, being as this has this little rubbery backing, this little cushion, I was able to push it down hard against the toilet flange and get just a temporary mark, run in there in the reloading room, and then cut around that with like this Dremel tool. Then take your other #1 tool, your little box cutter, and trim out around and shape and enlarge as necessary. And I want a little bit of a gap. And part of that was so that when I put the toilet down, I could squish the toilet wax could fill in those spaces. In fact, I've got a little cell phone video of that. I can show you where I kind of discussed that. Now, the tools, there's a little bit of a trick. When you use to tighten them up using this thing, I show you a picture of what do you do when you don't really have the room, like under a cabinet to whack it to drive the joint tight. Here's a little picture showing you what I did. It's simply a little piece of rag, although that's plenty dirty looking, but it's dry. It's just stained with years of use, and just put that there so I don't scratch the floor, and bang on the length piece. Now, for drawing your straight lines, this may look like a yardstick, but somebody forgot to put the numbers on it. It's not. It's just a piece of aluminum I had in the garage, but it is straight, and so you lay that across the piece like this. If I need to cut an angle, if I need to cut a length, run it like this. But mostly, I just simply use the square, as you see in this picture, like that, and draw a knife across it. Easy to break. The stuff is flexible, and you just do it like glass. You scribe a little line across it, put it across the hard edge, and snap it. It breaks pretty quick and easy. It is really pretty easy to work with. The hardest part for me was undercutting the door, because again, this piece, being a little bit thicker than the roll vinyl that was there, I had to relieve the door. So I ended up putting this down and taking one of these 2 saws, I think it was, and go up against the door frame to cut the underneath it. And it leaves a little gap, and I fill that in with some caulk, which will allow for a little bit of expansion and flex. Also, the selection, I don't know if you like that. I don't know how I like it. I started out with a gray, and in that bathroom with originally being kind of a set of tans throughout there, it had kind of cream bathtub shower and a cream lab. And when I put that gray down, it looked better in the store than it did when I put it in there, and they didn't have any samples because it's the in stock on the pallet type stuff. So I switched to this. I think it looks pretty good. Better than what it did. At least it's watertight now. I was also able to get a threshold, a matching threshold, and I didn't take any pictures when I was doing it, but basically you attach a little thin U-shaped plastic or vinyl cup to the edge of the door, right where the carpet and the vinyl come together, and then your cap fits down on top of it. I'm pretty even between the carpet level and this level, so I used a T-piece. They also make an offset piece. If you had really fluffy carpet and your floor was below, it does make one that's uneven, that's a little lower on one side. You'd get that. It's another option. It's pretty straightforward. I do have some cell phone video because, quite honest, I don't know if I was going to turn this into a show or not, but yeah, you can buy more expensive stuff. In the prices, I gave you a range basically at $2 to $3 or $2.50 to $3 kind of range. They grade different thicknesses, some with a backing, some without. The pieces are a little thicker or a little thinner. The cheapest stuff, the floor guy at Lowe's told me, he said, well, the only complaints he had with that is they don't lock very good together. And I said, well, that's not real great. A little bit more. I bought this stuff. It's about $2.75, something like that. Feels good. I think it looks good. They have other stuff that's higher quality, and by that I mean that they give like a 20-year full commercial warranty. That's in the wear layers and the thickness of it, versus this, which is sort of that maybe in the middle kind of grade, where it is a 5-year light commercial, and so it meets the residential. And again, I don't use the bathroom, so I thought that was a good choice for me. But now for you, if you've got a mud room, an entryway or something, you might want to look at springing a little bit more, maybe 50 cents or 75 cents a square foot more for something that's got a little bit better, longer warranty. You can special order stuff if you like. I didn't. I kind of like buying what everybody's putting down. It kind of keeps me kind of in the mainstream, but it also, because they run so much of it when it's kind of the in-store, in-stock brand, usually the price is a little bit lower, and it's as good as the next stuff, the special order stuff, and I don't have to wait for it to come in, and I can go ahead and get her done with. So let me roll some of the video, kind of show you kind of what it looked like toward the end. Not all cleaned up, but it gives you an idea. Let's set the toilet. Now, if you want to set the toilet, a couple things you want to do. Clean that flange off, set your bolt. What I do is I go measure the back to the front, add them together, average them, so I can find out where that center of those toilet bolts are. But also because, as I kind of mentioned, this floorboarding is 8 or whatever it is, 8-10 mil thick. I want to use a little jumbo ring, a little bit more wax, because I'm taking up some space around the edges, and I want to make darn sure that I have enough wax to fill that space and to kind of squish in. I hope some rolls around, kind of fills in around the cutout where it's floating. It is a wax, so it does flex a little bit. It's a sticky, nasty stuff, but it's what we use. Can you stand a quick walkthrough? Well, there is the threshold. It's really just a color matched piece of plastic, T-shaped, goes into that U-shape track at the bottom. You come across the cabinet. We did paint it. And this was originally this kind of red oak thing with brass knobs. We changed the knobs out and painted that. Other than that, it's really not that unusual. Did paint that fixture from brass to chrome looking. And it's, you know, just a toilet paper, water closet, new floor. Changed out the shoe mold for quarter round, painted everything up, sealed everything up. Pretty well much just it. Kind of painted the room itself with proper paint, one that's not going to have a problem. But anyway, that's pretty well much it. That floor went down pretty easy. Well, thank you for watching my little primer on luxury vinyl plank. I think it's pretty nice stuff, and in a lot of ways I do like it better than the actual wood laminate. Some people may not, but it's a little bouncier, I think. It's probably a little bit more resilient. I can't refinish laminate wood floor anyway, so and a lot of this looks a lot like wood. So hey, maybe I reinstall it twice as often as I would if I had to put the laminate in. It's a bathroom, so I need the water resistant. It fits good. Anyway, thank you for stopping by.